In the virtual world, a team wipe is just a few keystrokes away. But for Kwon Daegun, a school dropout working part-time at a convenience store, the real game was just beginning. While his teammates' screams echoed from the screen, his noob friend started the blame game, completely oblivious to what kind of player he was messing with. His friend kept rambling, even dropping some cringeworthy trash talk like, "Do you want to risk your life for the game?" Daegun just watched with cold indifference. Risk my life for a game? Please. The real pros never get addicted to virtual wins, because their goal is to dominate reality. Just then, another teammate's keyboard started screaming in agony. "Nice! I won!" The female teammate roared, nearly smashing her keyboard to bits. This level of immersion was exactly what Daegun scoffed at. And sure enough, the next second, the teacher appeared behind her like a ghost. "Student," the teacher said, pointing to the sign on the wall, "shotgunning is prohibited." Bro, talk about a major oof moment. Instant social death. Getting kicked out of the computer lab suited him just fine. Daegun casually said goodbye to his companions, mentioning he needed to head to another class. They were still asking why, but he simply took off his glasses, his gaze instantly sharpening. The warm-up was over. The real game was just about to begin. He had something to take care of, something that could only be solved with his fists. His true identity was an operative for a project called the Bully in Charge. His mission from the Educational Foundation was simple: enroll in this high school and, using the most direct methods, take down the real bullies one by one. His first target, Kim Myung-jung, was right there in that group. Well, look what the cat dragged in. The blonde leader sneered provocatively. Daegun, with a blank expression, asked about the hand he'd injured last time. The kid thought Daegun was being friendly and smugly wiggled his fingers. But he had no idea what was flashing through Daegun's mind. This guy's recovery speed is not normal. After giving his warning, Daegun turned to leave. His job wasn't just about fighting, it was about ensuring these bullies were managed and kept in line. He quickly calculated his next move: Shim Sangbo's gang, who hadn't shown up to school for days. It seemed the situation here was way more complicated than he'd anticipated. He patrolled the halls, from Class 1 to Class 6. On the surface, everything seemed calm, but there was a tense atmosphere in the air. Just as he reached the door to Class 6, he heard the thump of desks being slammed inside. So the peace was just an illusion. New trouble had just served itself up on a silver platter. "It's so damn loud. Can you be quiet so I can study?" A guy with glasses stood up, clearly at his limit. This immediately drew ridicule. "Yo, the guy who never studies suddenly wants to study? Did you get hit in the head last time?" It seems this glasses-wearing guy, Yang Jinma, is the class punching bag. So, turns out glasses guy was trying to improve himself for the top student in school. Interesting. However, his grand ambitions were quickly shut down by a girl's voice. "If you're going to act crazy, do it alone." The voice belonged to the queen of Class 1 to 6, Beck Suzy. The moment she spoke, the entire classroom went silent. Glasses guy immediately backed down, apologizing profusely. But the queen, Beck Suzy, while appearing cold as ice on the outside, was anxious on the inside. She was stressed, and she was scared. She was afraid her excuses wouldn't fool certain people, especially that one appa who was driving her crazy. "Yang Jima, get over here." Beck Suzy suddenly lashed out. She confronted him about that time, a memory of being bullied flashing through her mind. Turns out, she was scared too, scared that the delicate situation between her and Kwon Daegun would be exposed. And for that, she needed a scapegoat to create a diversion. So the whole issue was about the title appa. Yang Jinma frantically explained he was referring to someone else's older brother, Beck Suhyuk. But Suzy wouldn't let it go, cornering him relentlessly. Just then, a calm voice from the doorway cut through the drama. "You called me?" Daegun stood at the door, calmly observing the scene. Suzy's face instantly turned bright red. The domineering queen from a moment ago was suddenly a flustered little girl. Bro, that sudden shift in character. I'm dying. Plot twist. Ignoring the blushing queen, Daegun walked straight to Yang Jinma and gave him quiet orders. As the bully in charge, he needed some puppets. Jinma nodded and bowed, even slipping in a bit of flattery, because Daegun is someone I serve. Suzy overheard this, and her gaze turned icy in an instant. "Take off your glasses." The next second, a comb slammed squarely onto Yang Jinma's head. "Who do you think you are?" Suzy's rage completely exploded, daring to mention serving another man in front of her. That was a direct challenge to her authority. Poor Jinma, he just found a new boss to follow, and now he's getting disciplined by the queen. After a thorough beating, Suzy tossed her comb aside in disgust, annoyed that hitting him had smudged her makeup. She summoned her lackeys and coldly uttered 2 words, step on him. A classic case of making an example out of someone. She needed everyone to know who really runs class 1 to 6. While Yang Jima was getting ganged up on, the instigator, Beck Suzy, was casually touching up her makeup. She had only one thing on her mind, Kwon Daegun. This transfer student who came out of nowhere, daring to act like a boss in front of her. He needed to be taught a lesson. And so, a conspiracy against Kwon Daegun was quietly brewing. Meanwhile, Suzy's subordinate found a guy named Soo Hyuk apparently discussing something. An alliance? The guy frowned. It seems that to deal with their common enemy, Kwon Daegun, they plan to gather forces from all over. A high school version of the Avengers Assemble is about to go down. But why bully him? The guy asked. Because I want to see him come crawling back to me? The girl's, presumably Suzy's, answer reeked of a twisted desire for control. But when the guy suggested she ask her oppa to handle it, she panicked instantly. I can't do that. He might really die. Such a warped emotion, a desire to conquer, yet a fear of total destruction. It turns out, what she wanted wasn't a simple victory, but a queen-like ceremony. She fantasized about sitting on a throne while Kwon Daegun kneeled at her feet, addressing her as Miss Suzy. This Chinibia-level dangerous fantasy exposed the deep-seated insecurity and desire hidden in her heart. To achieve this goal, she gave a direct order. Do it, no matter what means necessary. Just make him crawl to me. On the other side, the guy tasked with this mission began to strategize. He planned to unite the bosses of Class 4, 7, 8, and 9 to form an anti-Daegun alliance. A war that would sweep across the entire freshman year was now inevitable. Cut to a golf course. The adults in suits are playing their game in a more civilized manner. They are the masterminds behind the Bully in Charge project. To them, the turmoil in high school is nothing more than an entertaining reality show. That newbie looks like a model. Why do you make him a gangster? One CEO joked. CEO Lee, this is a decent job that covers 4 major insurances, the other replied with a laugh. In their eyes, Kwon Daegun was just a carefully chosen pawn, a stone thrown into murky waters just to see the ripples. The project director arrived to give a status report, showing Kwon Daegun's achievements on a tablet. Interesting. This kid is really something, CEO Lee remarked with a satisfied smile as he reviewed the report. Their little experiment seemed to be heading in a very interesting direction. Tell him to work harder. I will take care of it later, the female director said, her gaze focused and her tone leaving no room for argument. It seems that as Daegun dives deeper, this powerful woman is preparing to enter the game herself, adding a new variable to the equation. While the adults played their power games nonchalantly on the golf course, a real storm was brewing inside the school. Under the setting sun, Jumryong-hai looked deceptively peaceful, but beneath this tranquility, a fierce undercurrent was already raging. Meanwhile, in an abandoned storeroom at the school, the bosses of the freshman classes gathered. This was the anti-Daegun alliance mentioned earlier. Is everyone here? Asked Yu Jiziak, the boss of class 1 to 5. His tone was calm, but the tension in the air was palpable. I've got a bad feeling about this. I heard Wanwoon got beaten badly. The bosses muttered among themselves, clearly stressed by Daegun's arrival. Just then, Lee Sung-hoon, the boss of class 1 to 9 and a classic villain with glasses type, cut to the chase. We're here because of the new student, right? And also about the alliance, Jiziak admitted. But as soon as the words were out, someone objected. I don't like it. I'm not interested in ranks, but I have no intention of losing to anyone. Well, damn. They haven't even faced the external threat, and the infighting is already starting. Are you scared of the new student? The taunt hung in the air, and the atmosphere became instantly hostile. Someone even suggested the two of them should have a showdown right now, for entertainment, and they even started taking bets. This so-called alliance was filled with suspicion and scheming from the very beginning. Not gonna lie, they're a total mess. All right, that's enough, said Lee Sung-hoon, the guy with the glasses, taking control of the situation again. He calmly put a stop to the argument, as if everything was under his control. But everyone else knew this was just the calm before the storm. Jiziak handed over the floor to the convener, but internally, he was extremely wary of Lee Sung-hoon. He'd heard rumors about this guy, someone who ruled over the study bugs. People like him were often much harder to deal with than the brutes who only knew how to throw punches. He's considered the weakest among them, so an alliance would benefit him the most, Jiziak analyzed silently. However, before he could speak, the convener announced, the new student is devouring classes at a fast rate. The tense rank that was already in place has collapsed. We need to do something. That's pathetic. Gu Sunghwa, the boss of class 1 to 7, stood up in disgust. It's only natural for the strong to stand on top. I'm not interested in playing house with you guys. He turned and left. Immediately after, Park Dojin, the boss of Class 1 to 4, also announced his departure. I don't want to share money. Well, the alliance went bankrupt before it was even formed. Seeing the alliance crumble, Kwon Daegun, the boss of Class 1 to 8 who looked like a dancer, also stood up, his words dripping with provocation. Someone has wasted my time. If you have a brain, you should think about it. Come at me then, so I can kill you. It will be a perfect warm-up before my dance practice. This crew is just full of hotheads. In the end, it was the strategist with glasses, Lee Sung-hoon, who stabilized the situation. He told everyone to calm down and turn the focus back to Kwon Daegun. Taking off his glasses, his eyes turned cold. Before we deal with him, do you want to hear my story first? It seems he plans to unite this mob with information and strategy. The scene shifts back to Class 1 to 4. Park Dojin, the musclehead who left the alliance because he didn't want to share the money, was playing a gambling game with his underlings involving a book and coins. They discussed the meeting, their words filled with disdain for the others. Just idiots. This gambling game seemed unusual. Park Dojin's subordinate won several rounds in a row. Dojin lost money but didn't seem to care, instead urging for another round. This time, however, when he slammed his palm down, the coins on the book didn't flip as expected. The atmosphere instantly turned weird. The subordinate who won the money was too scared to take it, repeatedly refusing. But Park Dojin grabbed him, his face showing an undeniable dominance. The winner is the winner. That's the rule. There was no hint of a joke in his eyes, only an almost pathological obsession with the rules. Another round, and the coin still didn't flip. Dojin's expression grew darker. He started to doubt his touch. This anxiety over losing control was making him more and more irritable. For him, losing money was a small thing. Losing control of the situation was what he couldn't tolerate. My touch doesn't feel good, Dojin muttered to himself, then suddenly slapped his own face. Everyone present was stunned. Then, he cracked a twisted smile. I think it feels good now. Hurry, stand up and sit down before I lose my touch again. This wasn't gambling anymore. It was naked humiliation and control. A new chapter begins. The humiliated student is the same subordinate Dojin looked down on at the alliance meeting. Now he's forced to play this degrading game under Dojin's oppressive command. Every slap feels like it's crushing his will. Watching the subordinate tremble in fear, Dojin and his crony let out cruel laughter. However, Dojin himself wasn't calm inside. His rapid breathing betrayed his anxiety. He needed this display of power to reassure himself that he was still strong, still in control of everything. Please, can we just give up? The subordinate finally broke down and begged for mercy. But Dojin just gave him a sarcastic smile and declared all bets forfeited. You don't even know the basics, and you want to play with me? With this, he stripped the guy of his last shred of dignity. After having all his money taken, the subordinate was left alone, the fire of revenge burning in his eyes. He thought of Kwon Daegun, the only one who could stand up to Park Dojin. He took out his phone, seemingly having made up his mind. Rather than being humiliated like this, it was better to let the wolf into the sheep pen. On another front, the atmosphere in Class 1 of 5 was just as tense. The boss, Yu Jiziak, seemed to have just returned to school, and someone immediately reported the situation to him. The person he was reporting to? None other than the queen we saw earlier, Beck Suzy. It seems the school's power network is far more complex than it appears. Yu Jiziak spoke with Beck Suzy alone, clearing the room of everyone else, including Suzy's own followers. Faced with Jiziak's questions, Suzy seemed perfectly at ease. These two bosses from different classes appear to have some kind of secret cooperative relationship. Their conversation, again, was about the alliance and Kwon Daegun. But more importantly, they mentioned a key piece of information: collection day. It turns out the bullying system in this school has formed a complete industrial chain, and money is the core driver behind it all. Jiziak calmly analyzed the situation. He believed that before collection day, the greedy ones would definitely make a move first, and they could just sit back and watch the tigers fight, taking action after the money was collected. His calculations were slick, but Lee Sung-hoon, that strategist with glasses, was already subtly becoming the leader of this temporary group. In the end, you're not doing anything. A mysterious girl mocked Yu Jiziak, declaring she would have to step up herself. The scene cuts to a blonde rider speeding through the city at night, the box on his back seat covered in provocative slogans. A new, more dangerous character has entered the stage. The blonde rider met up with Park Dojin and his crew. He mocked Dojin with money and claimed he had some good information, follow him, and he guaranteed they'd make a profit. Under the lure of money, this gang of desperados seemed to have found a new business opportunity. However, Park Dojin was broke right now. He even considered becoming a delivery driver, but his companion reminded him that collection day was coming soon. The blonde rider got a call and left in a hurry, leaving with a final remark. Anyway, tell me when you have money. I will help you. His target was clearly the money Daegun was about to get his hands on. Elsewhere, Jiziak and his people were also discussing collection day. But he was more interested in the hunt. Who are you going to catch first? I'll go after the transfer student first. He gestured, his tone contemptuous. He's already had 4.5 of those meals. If I catch him, I'll eat 5.5 at a time. In his eyes, Kwon Daegun was nothing more than the biggest prey. His companions got excited immediately, suggesting they run a bet on the fight between him and Daegun. Someone even wanted to bet on Daegun to win, because I heard that he's the best out there right now. Hearing this, Jiziak sneered. Come to think of it, that makes me an underdog, right? If you bet against me and I win, should I spend all my money? His confidence bordered on arrogance. Just then, Park Dojin's figure appeared in the distance. He seemed to be in bigger trouble. A huge, bulky guy with 2 underlings blocked his path. And this person, Dojin seemed to know him and feared him greatly. He bowed respectfully and greeted, Senior. This senior, named Kim Do-hyun, had apparently dropped out and was now part of gang. His reason for being here today was simple. He pointed to a terrified junior behind him and said, Hey, your target is my junior, right? Turns out, the person Dojin was bullying was this big senior's underling. You hitting my guy is the same as stealing my business. Kim Do-hyun framed the bullying as a business, even hypocritically claiming he had no bad feelings. Dojin calmly retorted, So, you're gonna get paid if you beat me up? This conflict had escalated from simple bullying to a blatant transaction of money and a clash of powers. But then, Dojin suddenly laughed. That's funny. So you were bluffing about joining an organization. All you were is just a muscle for hire. He cut right to the heart of the matter and threw out a core argument. You already quit school, so you're no longer my senior. The moment he said it, Kim Do-hyun's face changed instantly. Struck a nerve, Kim Do-hyun flew into a rage. Did you forget your manners? He announced his affiliation, one of the deadly 6, BMHO, and slapped Dojin hard across the face. He was trying to reestablish his authority, using his past identity and violence. I was going to go easy on you because of the old days, but it seems you need this senior to educate you a little bit. Kim Do-hyun's fists rained down. However, as he took the heavy blows, with blood trickling from his mouth, Dojin's eyes were unervingly calm. He was no longer the subordinate from the past who would just take a beating. Just when the onlookers thought Dojin was done for, a shocking reversal occurred. Dojin took the punch head-on with his face. You've gained quite a lot of weight in your fist. Did that make it too soft? He stood up, looking down on the fallen Kim Do-hyun like a god of war. With all this fat, how deep am I supposed to hit, huh? Every punch from Dojin was filled with power and contempt. The former senior was now completely helpless before him. This fight wasn't just a victory of strength. It was a changing of the guard between the old and new order. Senior brother, do you know? It doesn't feel nice to hit you. Why don't you work out? Dojin taunted as he delivered the final punch. Kim Do-hyun was utterly defeated. In that moment, Dojin proved with his strength that in their world, there are no permanent seniors, only permanent power. After completely crushing Kim Do-hyun, Dojin turned his gaze to his 2 companions. It's all fat. You don't have much meat. Come on, I'll help you shed off all of it. His tone was casual, but the killing intent in his eyes was terrifying. The remaining 2 were scared out of their wits, cursing him for crossing the line. They say they're going to kill me for money. Now it's my turn. There was only coldness in Dojin's eyes. On the rainy streets, a bloody battle for money and survival officially began. He was no longer the bully bound by rules, but a beast that had broken its chains. Dojin fought 2 against 1, every punch landing with brutal force. He had only one thought in his mind. I'll be fine as long as I have money. This extreme belief fueled him with astonishing combat power. The remaining 2 thugs were no match for him. In the heat of the battle, Dojin didn't escape unscathed. His opponent found an opening and knocked him to the ground, leaving him bruised. But this pain only fueled his ferocity. He quickly readjusted his stance, ready for the next wave of attacks. Just then, a familiar figure rushed over. It was the subordinate he had bullied. Dojin, I'll help you, the subordinate shouted. But Dojin refused. I don't need it. His pride wouldn't allow him to accept help from a weakling at a time like this. He broke free from the hold and retaliated with an even more ferocious assault. In the rainy night, the sound of fists meeting flesh was relentless. Dojin was defending his territory and his dignity in the most primitive way. He wanted everyone to know that Class 1 to 4 was his domain. Give me the money if you don't want to die. The fight was over. Dojin stood before his fallen enemy and spoke coldly. He had won, but the cost of being covered in wounds and exhaustion. He had seized back control through violence. But was this life truly what he wanted? However, his enemies hadn't completely lost the will to fight. Seizing a moment when Dojin was off guard, one of them grabbed a baseball bat and attacked from behind. But another figure was faster, instantly taking down the attacker. The fight wasn't over yet. A new enemy, or perhaps a new ally, had appeared. You touched the wrong person. A cold voice echoed. The newcomer was none other than the subordinate Dojin had been bullying. He proved with his actions that even a cornered rabbit will bite. His entry into this brawl made the chaotic situation even more unpredictable. The fight finally subsided, and the rain stopped. Although Dojin had won, his heart was filled with unease. He realized he might be dealing with a real gang. This level of violence, beyond what was typical for students, made him feel fear for the first time. The story cuts back to Kwon Daegun. He was stopped right after leaving the school gate. The person seemed to be his informant, telling him they had something important to discuss. Daegun looked annoyed, hands in his pockets, and replied coldly, "If it's nothing important, you're dead." He just wanted to complete his mission quietly, without any extra drama. "You said you weren't interested in rankings, but you're actually going to take over all the first years, right?" The informant got straight to the point. Daegun was a bit surprised. He hadn't expected his actions to be watched by so many people, let alone be interpreted as a power grab. "Do you have 2 lives?" Daegun's tone was full of warning. But he quickly realized the guy wasn't looking for a fight. The informant started explaining the school's unwritten rules, the secret of the operating expenses. It turned out that, without realizing it, Daegun had already disturbed the school's core chain of interests. It's written as class operating expenses, but read as collected money. The informant peeled back the hypocritical facade. The boss of each class collects money from their classmates, ostensibly to protect them from other classes. And Kwon Daegun was now the boss of 4 classes. This system, this order, was the foundation of the school. Anyone who tried to break it would become a public enemy. Daegun remembered the rules someone mentioned before, so this is what they meant. He was beginning to understand that his mission was far trickier than he'd imagined. Not only that, but the boss's rankings determined how much money they received. The higher the rank, the bigger the cut. That's why everyone wanted to be the top boss of Jumryong High. And now, Daegun had touched everyone's piece of the pie. What he was about to face was an assault from the entire school's dark forces. "So, I'm asking you to take care of my share, I'll be your strength." The informant finally revealed his true purpose. Before he could finish, Daegun's fist had already connected. Another one, he thought, speechless. He just couldn't comprehend the logic of these guys. He made a decision that shocked everyone. There'll be no such thing as collecting money from now on. This decision was tantamount to declaring war on the entire school's bullying system. He knew it was dangerous, but he had no other choice. This was his mission. "It's the same as turning the whole school against you," his companion warned. Daegun acknowledged the huge risk. But just then, the girl with glasses who seemed interested in him before suddenly interjected with a cryptic comment and left. In Daegun's world, trouble always comes in waves. He gets rid of one, and another one shows up. "Someone wants to meet you." Daegun was on the verge of breakdown. Why does everyone keep looking for me? He was tired of these endless tests and useless talk. He just wanted to solve problems in the simplest way possible. When he saw that the person who wanted to see him was Beck Suzy, his impatience reached its peak. "Hey, you want to die?" he snarled, grabbing the guide's wrist. However, the queen just stared at him coldly and commanded, "Let go of that hand." The standoff between the 2 alpha predators was about to ignite. "While I'm still being nice," Suzy added, her tone filled with undeniable authority. Daegun responded with equal force. "Let go." The air seemed to freeze. A silent battle of power and pride had begun between them. Before becoming the bully in charge at this elite high school, Kwon Daegun's life was surprisingly down to earth. Like working part-time at a convenience store and nearly causing an extinction-level event over his boss's precious few white hairs. Too bad those mundane little dramas are ancient history. Nowadays, the bald issues he has to deal with are way less funny. In the blink of an eye, he's gone from a part-timer getting yelled at by his boss to a feared figure on campus. And what do you know, he's run into trouble right away. Second years Park Dojin and Won Jao K. One's an arrogant loudmouth, the other's a silent enforcer. A classic bully combo. They're joking about Zhao K's bald head, their words dripping with contempt for the freshman. "Yep, called it." The next second, they turn on some innocent freshmen. "Your first years. Get lost." One Zhao K is fingering his prayer beads, but his eyes have zero mercy. He looks more like a demon demanding souls. Not gonna lie, that's some intimidating energy for a newbie to handle. Just then, a voice cuts through the tension. "I was here first." Kwon Daegun steps up, his tone calm, but absolute. "If anyone needs to get out of here, it's you." Bro, this move left the girl next to him completely stunned. Are you crazy? Won Zhaokei's patience has clearly run out. He smirks, twisting his beads, as if saying Buddha has no time for idiots. Just as he's about to make a move, the girl thinks fast, whips out her phone for backup. Hello, Appa. This call becomes the one variable that could shift the balance of power. In the end, the second years back down, dropping a few face-saving threats before preparing to leave. The girl grabs Kwon Daegun's arm, urging, there's no need to worry about useless people. Let's go. She just seems desperate to get out of this mess. Watching them walk away, Won Zhaokei's crew is fuming, but all they can do is swallow their anger and plot for the future. And that very phrase, in the future, happens to reach Kwon Daegun's ears. His expression, in turn, becomes dangerously intriguing. Park Dojin is clearly a man of action. He can't stomach this humiliation and is about to lose it right then and there. Zhaokei, though also pissed, still has some sense left and tries to stop him. Too bad. Dojin is consumed by rage, a sick grin spreading across his face. This is going to be great. His target wasn't Kwon Daegun at all. It was the innocent girl with him. What he wanted to see was the look of terror on his prey's face. The moment his vile hand reached out, the hunt, or rather, the counter-hunt, officially began. Plot twist. Before Dojin could even touch the girl, a massive force sent him flying. Kwon Daegun had anticipated his sneak attack all along. Bro, the ambush backfired spectacularly. Talk about an epic fail. Kwon Daegun's assault was like a hurricane, giving Dojin zero room to breathe. Every punch landed with devastating force, the sound of impact echoing in the air. This wasn't a lesson, it was a one-sided beatdown. Park Dojin was completely stunned, never expecting the transfer student to be this monstrously strong. What is with this guy? He thought, desperately dodging while trying to form a strategy. Meanwhile, Daegun calmly positioned himself to protect the girl, his first priority being to create distance and ensure her safety. After confirming the girl was at a safe distance, Park Dojin finally decided to stop dodging. Let's go. His eyes narrowed, ready to face him head-on. Daegun, seemingly bored with the game of cat and mouse, taunted, why are you just avoiding it? I heard some rumors about you, transfer student. Let me confirm them. A cold smirk played on Daegun's lips. Before the words even faded, he shot forward like a cannonball, unleashing a powerful axe kick straight at Dojin. I'm shook. Turns out Park Dojin is no pushover. Not only did he dodge the attack, but he countered with incredible speed. A series of lightning-fast kicks landed squarely on Daegun. For the first time, Daegun looked genuinely surprised. You're strong too. Knocked flat on his back, Kwon Daegun actually smiled. It was the thrill of meeting a worthy opponent. That's brutal. You're fucking strong. Wiping the blood from his lip, he got up. The condescension in his eyes was gone, replaced by a hint of concern. Hey, your arm. Are you all right? Park Dojin stared at his injured arm in disbelief. He wanted to act tough, but the pain was real. Just then, Kwon Daegun straightened his tie and said coolly, in a tone that was more of a declaration, you're gonna have to be okay, because you'll be getting hit more from now on. Kwon Daegun's voice was quiet, but it landed like a sledgehammer on Park Dojin's pride. The duel was over, but the real war had just begun. Meanwhile, the once invincible Park Dojin was now clutching his side, having an existential crisis. I thought it was going to be okay. How did one hit hurt this much? He couldn't comprehend how his prized strength crumbled so easily before his opponent. As Kwon Daegun declared, I'm planning to hit you more from now on. He started taking off his school jacket, ready to make good on his promise immediately. This completely freaked out Beck Suzy. Hey, Kwon Daegun, why are you taking off your clothes in public? She totally missed the memo that he was gearing up for a fight. The growing crowd of onlookers was making Daegun feel a bit constrained. Seizing the opportunity, Park Dojin decided to cut his losses, declaring, I intend to stop here today. After all, getting knocked out in front of everyone would be beyond embarrassing. He'd tasted his opponent's power and knew a direct confrontation was a bad idea. The Real event will happen next time. Look forward to it because I'll find you again. Park Dojin dropped his threat and pushed through the crowd. From a distance, his glasses-wearing accomplice smirked, as if to say, don't worry. We'll see each other soon. Daegun wasn't having any of it, firing back, you talk too much. Next time, I'll just beat you all at once. Save myself the trouble. This completely set off the guy named Gong Myung, who got so mad that veins were popping on his forehead. If his friend hadn't held him back, a brawl would have broken out right there. Afterward, these 2 second years actually started reflecting. I was so arrogant, thinking my mercy wouldn't fail me, the bald guy mused, fingering his beads like a philosopher. He even thought Daegun might be a test sent from the heavens. Meanwhile, Daegun was just confused, What the hell is wrong with those guys? That was so dangerous. Those guys are the second-grade leaders. Beck's Susie was still shaken, but Daegun was completely unfazed. So, seeing his nonchalant attitude, Susie got flustered, stammering out an admission. You're, well, a little. No, quite strong. But still, be careful. When the topic of calling for backup came up, Daegun confessed about my brother coming. It was a lie. Susie instantly blew a fuse. What? I lied to save you. Turns out, they were both trying to protect each other in their own unique ways. You'll die if you meet my appa, Susie warned, puffing her cheeks. But the blush on her face betrayed her true feelings. She claimed, I don't worry about you, but that stubborn, insincere denial was more genuine than any word she could say. Anyway, I saved you, so we don't owe each other anything. Susie tossed out the line and turned away with a huff. Watching her go, Daegun was lost in thought. Wasn't she here to threaten me? Why did she end up saving me and worrying about me? NGL, this girl is an enigma. At the same time, Susie was going crazy over her own unusual behavior. Why am I worried about that guy? As for Daegun, he had already switched back to mission mode. His next target was Kim Do-hyun, along with his accomplice with the injured arm. This accomplice of Daegun's was, in fact, Park Do-jun. He casually claimed, the new student is not that strong. I can win, while internally stressing about how to get money and find Kim Do-hyun. His inner world was far more complex and anxious than he let on. To get his hands on some cash, Park Do-jun started extorting his classmates, starting with the class president. Send me Kim Do-hyun's address and collect the money within this week. His casual, entitled attitude scared the soul out of the president, who could only stammer in terror. Huh? This week? Giving you a week is an investment, get it? Park Do-jun justified his bullying with high-sounding rhetoric, acting like some benevolent capitalist. Nothing's gonna happen even if I get caught, so don't be scared. His arrogance was built on a complete disregard for the rules. Next, on a whim, he decided to settle things with rock, paper, scissors. This act of turning violence into a game made him seem even more twisted and unpredictable. The victim was forced to play along with this absurd charade, completely powerless. Winning rock, paper, scissors wasn't enough. He then made an even more degrading demand, a finger flick punishment. Hurry, get close, he commanded. The victim could only tremble and obey, waiting for the humiliating blow. He gets loaded. Fire. With Park Do-jun's bizarre laugh, that finger, bent like a mollusk's limb, unleashed incredible power. With a loud crack, his opponent was sent flying, instantly knocked out. The defeated student knelt on the floor, writhing in pain, yet still managed to yell defiantly, one more round. His eyes burned with humiliation and a desire for revenge. But Park Do-jun, like a devil, just smirked and flashed his next hand sign. Meanwhile, Kwon Daegun was reviewing his strategy. He couldn't meet Beck's Soo-hyuk, and his plan to collect money hit a snag. But his assessment of Park Do-jun was surprisingly high. That guy named Park Do-jun, he can endure my slapping. This realization rekindled his fighting spirit. He's definitely not like the guys I've been fighting with, Daegun analyzed, even wondering if he'd gotten rusty from his break. Rather, it's nice. It's time to find my touch again. His eyes filled with a hunter's craving for a real challenge. As much as he can endure, I can beat him that much more. Daegun's battle lust was fully ignited. However, a phone call that wouldn't connect instantly dragged him back to harsh reality. The foundation he relied on was unreachable. His plans were thwarted again, sending him into a rage. Fucking scammers. In a deserted corner, Daegun vented his fury and despair. Meanwhile, back on campus, students were cheering the arrival of the new kid, thinking he could solve the class's bullying problem. Little did they know, this supposed savior was facing a massive crisis of his own. While Daegun was at his wit's end, another group on campus was plotting. How about we get the new student to beat up that bastard Park Do-jun? It sounded like a nice plan, but before they could celebrate, an uninvited guest came knocking. And by the looks of it, it was Do-jun himself, looking for revenge. Do-jun, on a skyscraper rooftop on a rainy night. The boy who was just plotting is now pushed to the brink of death. His survival instinct makes him scream in terror, but it can't stop his fall into the abyss. Thank goodness I stepped on the brake. The tormentor calls this horrific game an amusement ride, savoring the sight of his prey, crying in fear. It's fun, right? So fun it makes you cry. His words are colder than the freezing rain. Watching his victim break down, the tormentor flashes a satisfied smile. Then, let's ride it one more time. His voice is filled with malicious glee, announcing the start of another round of torture. In this school, there's more than one true devil. Let's rewind to Kwon Daegun and his two new friends. He's using the Pythagorean theorem to explain the principles of combat, elevating brawling to the level of mathematics, leaving the other two dumbfounded. Weight, distance, angle. It all needs to be calculated, he says, sounding like a professor. However, no amount of theoretical knowledge could save him from failing an English vocabulary quiz. When the question was bed, his female classmate frantically hinted at jujitsu, but he still lost. The sheer contrast is hilariously tragic. The punishment for losing the quiz, naturally, was to get educated a bit. But right then, a real party crasher showed up. Park Daegun, the muscle-bound guy from Class 4, walked into the classroom radiating bad vibes. Hey you, stand up. Park Daegun established his dominance the moment he arrived, ordering the class's original top dog to give up his seat. The blatant provocation made the air in the classroom freeze over. The original boss tried to save face by claiming he lost the game, but Park Daegun wasn't buying it. Just as he tried to make a graceful exit, Daegun stopped him, as if to say, the game's not over yet. Since you lost, you need to get the punishment. And Park Daegun's fists were no joke. One heavy punch, and the former boss was knocked out cold. In the most direct way possible, he announced the arrival of a new king and showed everyone just how ruthless he could be. With the small fry dealt with, Park Daegun finally turned to his main target for the day, Kwon Daegun. I told you I'd come back, right? He said, holding a book titled Buy Me Rice Soup, and proposed a game to decide the outcome. It seems he really enjoys humiliating his opponents this way. The scene shifts to an abandoned auditorium, where two second-year top dogs are discussing strategy. Their assessment of Kwon Daegun, talented, but seems to be hiding his real skills, and his movements are those of a skilled fighter. As for Park Daegun, they see him as an interesting person, a power type who simply overwhelms everything with his raw physicality. That unreasonable strength is precisely what makes him so dangerous. Daegun's strength isn't just brute force, it's also his incredible flexibility. This flexibility translates to elasticity and endurance, allowing him to instinctively avoid most damage. Jumping from the second floor without a scratch is the perfect proof. Despite this, Daegun has weaknesses. His technique is lacking, and he's impulsive and emotionally volatile. But could a monster who swept a gym using only his physical gifts actually lose? In the depths of his own mind, however, the answer is, I lost. Back in the classroom, Daegun is effortlessly crushing Daegun at the game. Why are you so good at this? Daegun asks, bewildered. My body still remembers, Daegun replies coolly. Still, Daegun refuses to accept defeat and demands one more round. However, Daegun refuses another match and even concedes defeat. This unusual move makes Daegun suspicious, but he seizes the opportunity anyway, setting a final showdown for Friday. Daegun simply advises him, just take care of your arms. I hate to see you exaggerate about being in pain. Daegun's friends are confused and worried by his concession, thinking it's suspicious to fight in front of the second years. But Daegun feels that since his opponent has already prepared the ring, there's no reason not to go. His calmness only makes his friends more anxious. Bring those two bald guys too. Daegun even requests a larger audience. This insane confidence makes even Park Daegun laugh. I really like you because you seem to be crazy. And just like that, a highly anticipated showdown was set. Daegun's plan is clear. Take care of Park Daegun, deal with the second years along the way, and the first year's money collection problem will be solved. Perfect plan. But on the other side, Yang Jin Mo, the student he punished, is praying in despair. I wish the world would be destroyed right now. Rumors about the new transfer student had already spread throughout the campus, though they couldn't even get his name right. The students are filled with a mix of awe and curiosity, cautiously approaching him to confirm his identity, afraid one wrong word might spell disaster. Just then, a classmate runs up with a bizarre request. Please lose to Park Daegun. This wild plot twist leaves even Kwon Daegun stunned. What do you mean? Talk properly. It turns out Park Daegun and the second years have set up a betting pool on their fight. This is no longer a simple brawl. It's an underground game involving money and stakes. And the reason this student is begging Daegun to lose seems to hide an even deeper secret. That secret was soon revealed in the cruelest way. The student, having lost 500,000 won in a bet, was being shaken down by Park Daegun. You must have drooled from excitement after imagining me kneeling down and apologizing, right? Daegun's smile was filled with the taunting cruelty of a cat playing with a mouse. The loan company was closed, and the money was gone. So, Park Daegun turned his attention to the student. Do-hyun, he said, looks like I need to borrow some money. But his version of borrowing sounded a lot more like straight-up robbery. Just use your name. Don't worry, once I win against the new student, It's like winning the lottery. I'll pay you back right away. Choking Do Hyun, Park Dojin used his future victory as collateral, forcing him to take on a high-interest loan. This was the real reason the student begged Daegun to lose. That's why. If you win, I won't get my money. Do Hyun was practically begging, but the girl next to him cut in coldly. Let's say he won. Can I break your neck? It means, do you want to die? Her intervention made the situation even more confusing and dangerous. Kwon Daegun's story unfolds, each page filled with tension and conflict. This high school is no sanctuary. It's a dark forest teeming with violence, money, and power struggles. That's why. If you win, I won't get my money back. Faced with Kim Do Hyun's tearful plea, Kwon Daegun clearly had no patience for the full story. After all, another student was waiting for his English tutoring. So, what will you give me if I beat Park Dojin? Kwon Daegun's counter-question left the student stunned. He's no hero. Everything he does comes at a price. It's impossible for me to lose to him, but I'll beat him up bad. And you, come find me after school. His tone wasn't an invitation. It was an order. On the surface, Daegun seemed to be getting English lessons from the female student, but internally, his mind was already calculating. Beating Park Dojin wasn't the hard part. He was worried that by meddling in affairs outside of school, he might cross the line drawn for him by the foundation. On the way home, Kim Do Hyun made a bold suggestion. If you're so confident, why not bet on yourself to win, just like Park Dojin? But he immediately chickened out, saying he had no money and wanted Daegun to bet for him. Bro, I can hear you're scheming from a mile away. So, are you telling me to go up there and borrow money to place a bet? Daegun saw right through his little scheme. Faced with the direct question, Kim Do Hyun had no choice but to confess. Daegun's sharp perception makes it impossible for anyone to play games with him. In the end, Daegun decided to check out the loan shark company himself. You can go now, I'll go alone. He knew the risks, but to move his plan forward, he had to go in person. Turns out, that loser Kim Do Hyun was finally helpful for once. Even with the money in hand, Daegun didn't feel relieved. He knew he had broken the rules, and he knew the saying high risk, high return. He was betting everything on this fight with Park Dojin. Winning was the only option. However, when he arrived at the loan shark's den, he found it empty. Just as he was hesitating whether to leave, a strange man appeared from behind, eyeing him suspiciously. Are you here to borrow money? How old are you? The man's question was direct. Daegun's heart skipped a beat. He knew being a minor, trying to get a loan was big trouble. He was led inside, and as the man began his interrogation, the atmosphere grew incredibly tense. 17. No, 20. Daegun's lie was full of holes and instantly enraged the man. Do you think this is a place for you to joke around? The man's roar made him realize he'd kicked a hornet's nest. He tried to slip away with the excuse that he left his laundry hanging. Stop right there. The man clearly didn't buy his lame excuse. The weather is nice and cool. What laundry? You're being suspicious, huh? His eyes narrowed as he began to question Daegun's true identity. You can't deceive my eyes. Tell me, which family are you from? The man grabbed Daegun, preventing his escape. The crisis of his identity being exposed put Daegun in a corner. Pushed to his limit by the man's relentless pressure, Daegun's patience finally snapped. He tried to break free, but the man held on like a madman, letting out an animalistic roar. A brutal fight was now unavoidable. In a flash, Kwon Daegun's counterattack was swift and decisive. With a single punch, he sent the burly man flying, knocking him out cold. The power gap between them was so immense, it was like a higher-dimensional being swatting a fly. I fought back before I knew it. I'm ruined Kropka. Only after the fight did Daegun start to panic. But he quickly composed himself. While the man was out, he decided to look through the ledger, hoping to find Kim Do Hyun's name and solve the problem once and for all. However, in a photo next to the ledger, he saw someone completely unexpected, his school's own President Lee. Why is President Lee's picture here? This discovery sent the entire situation spiraling into a deeper mystery. Before he could figure out, footsteps echoed from outside. Kunknim, are you sleeping? Daegun knew he couldn't stay here any longer and made a break for it. But enemy reinforcements had arrived, and a chase was about to begin. Get that bastard. With shouts echoing behind him, Daegun sprinted down the hallway. After a narrow escape, he sat alone on a park bench, feeling a wave of regret and fear. I went there for nothing, and almost poked a beehive. He decided to shelve the mystery of the president's photo for now and focus on Park Dojin. He checked the weather and saw that Friday, the day of the fight, was forecasted to be rainy. A rainy day? I really don't like it. A strange sense of dread washed over him, like a bad omen. Meanwhile, Park Dojin was already fired up and couldn't wait. The transfer student's attack was nothing, he boasted to his crew. There's no one in this world who can hurt me. His confidence had reached its absolute peak. The location for the final battle was set, an abandoned school auditorium. The place had long been Park Daegun and his crew's personal playground. As they pushed open the doors, a stage built specifically for violence was ready and waiting. Inside the auditorium, it wasn't just Dojin's people. The second-year mediator group, rowed in between, was also there preparing. They seemed to be the referees or witnesses for this duel. With all factions gathered, the meaning of this fight was no longer so simple. Have you been waiting long? The second-year bully group rowed in between made their grand entrance, their presence overwhelming. They were the audience invited by Park Daegun and also a potential threat. Every face in the crowd looked like trouble. Their leader, the bald Kwon Daegun with his prayer beads, clearly had contempt for this whole circus, but he showed up anyway. His eyes were full of disdain for materialistic desires, as if he were passing judgment on everyone present. Has the transfer student not arrived yet? Kwon Daegun's patience was wearing thin. I don't like my patience being tested, especially not today. His words carried the oppressive weight of a coming storm. All eyes turned to the closed doors. On a pouring, rainy night, an abandoned auditorium becomes the gathering spot for all sorts of crews. Park Daegun and his friends, along with the second-year gang rowed in between, are all waiting for today's main character. Park Daegun seems a bit nervous and excited. He never imagined fighting in a place like this. Meanwhile, Kwon Daegun, the leader of rowed in between, grows more impatient with the wait, and the air becomes thick with tension. Just then, three figures with umbrellas appear in the rain. Kwon Daegun and his two friends have finally arrived. You guys really don't have to follow me, Daegun says. What are you talking about? Of course we're going together, his friends reply, full of loyalty. I found out Park Daegun's fighting style through an informant, his blonde friend offers. But Daegun waves it off, it's fine. I roughly figured it out after taking a punch. This level of confidence leaves his friends speechless. But just as they approach the auditorium, Daegun tells them to go on ahead. The transfer student still isn't here. He only said he'd be here soon, so it's not guaranteed he didn't just run away. Inside the auditorium, Kwon Daegun's displeasure is palpable. The main character's tardiness is pushing everyone's patience to the breaking point. Besides rowed in between, other second-year factions have also come to watch, including Sacred Pedigree and Lee Sung-hoon from Class 9. A fight that was supposed to be a freshman affair has escalated into a major campus event, thanks to all the big shots in attendance. Ma Ji-suk, the leader of Sacred Pedigree, questions the purpose of this fight. With the leaders of various factions all gathered, each with their own agenda, the duel becomes fraught with unseen political maneuvering. So, who's the transfer student? He didn't come? Ma Ji-suk's question is on everyone's mind. Daegun's friends are frantic. They know that if Daegun doesn't show up soon, they'll have to face the wrath of every second-year leader present. Fuck, why isn't he coming? I might die from boredom. Park Daegun finally explodes. Like an uncontrollable beast, he starts provoking everyone in the room. He needs an outlet for his pent-up lust for battle. Am I too late? Are you talking about me? Just as Park Daegun is about to lose control, a calm voice comes from the entrance. In the rainy night, the man with the black umbrella, Kwon Daegun, has finally made his entrance. Faced with Daegun's provocations, Daegun's friends step up, wanting to take responsibility for his lateness. But the second years argue that for the main event to be good, the player must be kept in peak condition. The two sides are at a standoff. Am I a bit late? Kwon Daegun's arrival instantly silences the entire hall. He wears a slight smile, but his eyes are as sharp as blades. With a resonant clang, like a sword being unsheathed, he announces that the show is about to begin. Oh, isn't that Kim Myung-young? You were the leader of Class 2 until just recently. Park Daegun's friend started taunting Daegun's friend with sarcasm. However, before he could finish a sentence, he was sent flying by an immense force. The one who attacked was Park Daegun. It seems he can't tolerate anyone else stealing the spotlight on his stage. You should be honored that I'm using you for a warm-up, he snarled, displaying his overwhelming power and cruelty. Watching his friend being used as a warm-up dummy, Kwon Daegun finally broke his silence. A piece of trash like you isn't even worthy of being my warm-up. His counterattack wasn't just verbal, it was physical. Did you beat someone up just because you couldn't endure waiting? Kwon Daegun questioned as he walked towards Park Daegun. With every step, his aura intensified. Everyone knew the real duel was about to begin now. Daegun is finally here. His friends shout his name with excitement. But because he was so late, Park Daegun has already warmed up on his friend. All your friends might have ended up dead if you were even a little later. His threat is chilling to the bone. Yeah, but just one person isn't enough for a warm-up. Daegun's tone was calm, but the killing intent in his eyes was practically leaping off the screen. Before the words faded, he transformed into a black shadow, lunging at Park Dojin. It was a pity that it was just a beating last time. Kwon Daegun's eyes were ice cold. He had completed his own warm-up using Dojin's friend. Now, he was going to make Park Dojin pay tenfold for his actions. Today, Kwon Daegun's voice was like a proclamation from hell, every word filled with power. I won't stop with just a good thrashing. This fight would be about more than just winning or losing. It would be for dignity and revenge.